Variables. They're things that let us tell JavaScript, here's something I want you to remember so we can use it later. And we put all kinds of things in there. Text, numbers, HTML tags like buttons on a page, lists of things or details about things. And you'd be right to ask, like, okay, so why would I want to do that? And one example you probably use all the time is for things that aren't the same for everyone who uses your app. Your account name, for example, on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube is different from your friend's account name. So they can't just write Chris in HTML and have everyone's account name show Chris. For each person who logs in, they had to tell JavaScript there was something it needed to remember called an account name. Put your name in there, and every time you need to see that account name, show whatever is in that account name variable on the app's screen. So to look at the different things we can put in variables, let's open up a JavaScript file that's linked to an HTML file we have open in the browser. Like we looked at before, variables are like boxes. We can put anything we want to inside of to tell JavaScript to remember it so we can use it later. To make this box or variable, we just write let and then the name of our variable with an equal sign after it. We can use the real life example of our friends lists in apps like Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram to help us understand all the different kinds of things we can put in variables. In addition to HTML tags, there are 4 main kinds of things we put in variables. Number 1, text, which for whatever reason is called a string. Secondly is numbers, which fortunately are also called numbers in programming. Lists of things, which is called an array in programming. And finally, details about something, which is called an object in JavaScript. Let's start out with the name of one of those friends in that friends list, for example. We write people's names out with text, so let's make a variable called myFriend and set it equal to a string. We can make strings by just using quotation marks around whatever we're writing. Let's say our friend's name is Maisha and put it in there. Strings like this just let JavaScript know, hey, this is just text and not like the name of some other variable we made and called Maisha. We can write these quotation marks as either double or single quotation marks, whichever one you like. Now to check what our variable has in it, we can just log this out to the console with console.log. And there we go. When we save and the browser's page refreshes, we see the name of our friend Maisha as a string written in the console. Now the next thing we can put in variables are numbers. Usually apps like Facebook have the number of friends you have kept in a variable. And we can try that out just by making a new variable that we can name number of friends and set it equal to any number like 12. For numbers, we usually don't put quotation marks around it to make it a string type. Keeping it a number lets us tell JavaScript to do math for us, like say number of friends plus 1 whenever we add a new friend. You might also notice that when we make variables, we usually start the first word with a lowercase letter and then use uppercase letters after it. Since we can't use spaces in variable names, this just makes it easier for us to read and makes it easy to know, like, hey, this is a variable. Now, if we just switch out our variable we're logging to the console to our new number of friends variable, we see the number of friends logged out to the console as well. Now, the second to last main thing we put in variables are arrays. Remember, these are just lists of things. Apps like TikTok and Facebook use these to give us a list of our friends. Let's try it out by making a new variable and name it something like my friends list. We'll set it to an array by just writing these square brackets like this. And inside we can write the name of some friends. Since our friends' names are just text or strings, we'll put each one in quotation marks. I'll just start out by putting the first name here, Maisha. To add more friends to this list, we just have to separate them with a comma. So after the comma, we can just add another friend in these quotes again. I'll call our second friend Devante, and our last friend we'll call them Imani. Now when we log this my friends list variable out to the console, we see all of our friends are written to the console with this one variable we made. Now the last thing we usually put in variables are objects. And remember, these are just details about something. So apps like Facebook have details about each one of the friends you have. Details like their first name, last name, maybe the city they live in, and their age. Let's try making an object for our friend Maisha. We can make a variable and call it Maisha's details. We can set it equal to an object by writing these squiggly brackets like this. And it's a bit easier to see what we're doing if we open up these brackets by pressing enter. So we can write these details about Maisha, like her first name, by just writing first name and then typing a colon. Then we can set it to whatever we want. Her first name, Maisha, is just text, so we'll make a string by using quotation marks and putting her name in it. Now to add another detail about Maisha, we can just separate it with a comma. Let's press enter and add her last name. We can say her last name is Williams. Now let's just add her age as the last detail or property and say she's 24. And when we log our Maisha's details variable out to the console, we see all the details about our friend Maisha in an object. And those are pretty much all the different kinds of things we put in variables: strings, numbers, arrays, and objects. We can put a few other things as well, but these are the main ones we need to learn about to get a job. Usually we would have this info about our friends list saved somewhere else, use JavaScript to get them and save them in variables like this, and then use JavaScript again to put them into regular HTML paragraph tags or div tags so they show up on the screen. We'll cover the different things we can do with strings, numbers, arrays, and objects in upcoming videos. If you're following this playlist, you already know the bare minimum needed to get the few jobs out there only requiring HTML and CSS. And once we know these, we'll be really close to knowing the bare minimum we need to get a basic dev job that also requires JavaScript. Helping people get high-paying tech jobs by trying to make learning to code as unintimidating as possible is something I really love to do. So if you want to support and allow me the time to think of ways to help others feel less intimidated by tech, there's a link to my Patreon below. And as you learn, remember the old adage, may the odds be ever in your favor, and the snacks be ever in your bag.